Welcome guys back to another episode of Hypixel Quakecraft. So I've been playing Minecraft for a very long time. I first started all the way back on my iPod Touch in like 2011 or 2012 before switching to Minecraft Java Edition around the time that 1.2 was released, which literally feels so long ago. That's crazy. Actually, that was more than half my lifetime ago. That is messed up. That can't be real. Anyways, in that time I have met so many people. I mean, just on Hypixel alone I have like 80 plus pages worth of friends. Then on Discord and Skype, hundreds of friends. People from other Minecraft servers, other games in general. Basically, I've spent too much time online is what I'm trying to get at, and I've met too many people. But what's kind of crazy is some of those people who I met all the way back in 2012 and 2013, I actually still have contact with to this day. That's not to say that I'm jumping in their DMs every single day or anything. In fact, I haven't talked to any of them in about a year or so, but I do still have contact with them, and every once in a while, you know, we like to catch up a little bit, see how life's going. And I think it's really awesome that not only do I still have all these memories of gaming with them over Minecraft over 10 years ago, but they remember me too. But anyways, in more recent years, pretty much ever since the end of 2019, the majority of the people who I talk to online have been Quake players. And there's one Quake player who used to play quite a bit. He got over 100,000 kills and the .85 trigger and all that, named Paperclip4. The man, the myth, the legend himself. Anyways, because we played so much at the same time, we talked a lot in game and he joined my guild and stuff. And it wasn't until probably over a year after I initially met him that I would ever actually join a Discord call with him. And so fast forward to that date and I was in a call with him and I want to say 3 other people. So I think there was about 5 of us total in call. Anyways, so we're just talking about random different things and eventually we come upon the topic of our locations. And someone in the call basically brings up the fact that they are from Minnesota. And Paperclip's like, oh, that's cool. I was actually just in St. Paul, for example. I don't remember the exact town, but I'm pretty sure that's the capital of Minnesota. And then the other person would be like, oh, wait, no, I live there. So you've actually been to my city? So that was pretty crazy. We were all like, oh, no way. I can't believe that Paperclip's been to where this other guy lives before. That's really crazy to think about. But then it happens again to another person who's in the call, where Paperclip would basically list the exact city that someone else is living in. And then he asks me where I'm from. And generally speaking, whenever someone asks me this question, I always just say Canada. I don't like to get super specific. But just off of Canada, once again, he's like, oh, I've been to Canada. It's really nice there. I've been to your city. And again, he names my exact city. And immediately I'm like, no way, no way. This guy's trolling. I have flashbacks to the Hypixel TeamSpeak days when people would just like start listing off your exact IP address. I'm like, this guy's definitely found some sort of exploit with Discord that's letting him basically like soft dox us. Like, you're actually trolling. You're finding out all of our IPs and our cities somehow, and you're trying to mess with us. And he's like, no, I promise I haven't been. I've been to all these cities before for cricket. And that almost made me laugh just because I don't know how popular cricket is in the States or anything, but where I live, I do not know a single cricket player. I only even know of the location of a single cricket field, but I have been there quite frequently because it's in the middle of a very beautiful park in town where I live. And so, you know, we start asking him more questions. He's like, oh yeah, I travel with my dad a lot because he's in an actual competitive league. So he's constantly traveling all over the place. And we're like, so you're really trying to tell us that you've just been to all 4 of our cities solely to play cricket? He's like, yeah, I'm serious. And I don't know about anyone else, but me personally, I did not believe him for a second. Like I said, this was around the time that he had pretty much stopped playing Quake, but the perception I had of him in my mind had been permanently altered. And he was already known for being a little bit of a goon in-game, but for him to now be like, quote-unquote, soft doxing us in the sense that I knew right away that he wasn't going to try to expose this information about us or anything like that. He was just trying to have a bit of fun and troll us a little bit, but it was still a little bit concerning. And so anyways, that was the last time I talked to him in a voice call until probably about half a year later, when I then once again brought up the fact that, hey, remember that time you basically doxed all of us in the call? And he once again insisted that it was a complete coincidence. And I still was not sure what to believe at the time, because that is seriously one hell of a coincidence. But anyways, fast forward another year after that, I pretty much hadn't heard from him at all in that time because he had stopped playing the game almost entirely. And so I wake up one morning and I see Paperclip4 in my DMs. I'm like, oh boy, what's it gonna be this time? And it's just this one single ominous message. It says, Canada is so beautiful. And I'm like, okay, yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate that. That was all me. I put in the work to make Canada beautiful, for real. And then, you know, a little bit later, he responds, hey, so you're in this city, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm there. He's like, oh, cool. I'm there right now. And I was like, no way. I genuinely did not believe that for a second. I was like, all right, prove it to me. And he's like, all right. And he sends me a picture of that cricket park, which I mentioned earlier. And I see the photo and I immediately am like, oh my God. god, that actually is a current photo. And the reason I knew that is because I had been at that cricket field less than 24 hours earlier, nearly in the exact same spot that he took the picture from, because there's a parking lot right behind the cricket field where I parked, and he took the picture from the bleachers almost directly in front of me. So this picture was the almost identical view that I had seen the exact same day before, with like specific tents pitched up that aren't normally there, which is how I knew that it was a current photo. But I was like, no way, like he just got that off Google Images or something. I need more proof. I genuinely didn't believe him. And so we end up deciding that the best way to prove it is for him to take a photo of him holding up a local magazine, and he basically doesn't respond for the rest of the day. So I'm immediately like, oh, I guess, yeah, he must have just been trolling after all. But lo and behold, right before I'm about to go to bed, I look in my inbox and he has a photo of him holding the local magazine. And I'm like, no way. He actually was legitimately here for cricket the whole time. And it was genuinely the most unbelievable coincidence that he had been to everyone's hometown in that one single VC back like 2 years ago. And so anyways, we of course have some more back and forth. I learned the hotel that he's staying at and stuff. But I'm like, well, we gotta meet somewhere. He's like, all right, let's go out for drinks or something tomorrow. I'm like, all right, bet. So we schedule a date for the next night at this pub that's pretty much right across from the cricket field. And the next day swings around. It's getting closer and closer to the time that we're supposed to meet. And I just have like the biggest grin on my face because genuinely I still could not trust that he was legitimately here. I thought this was the most elaborate prank ever, and I was gonna show up to the pub and just he wasn't gonna be there. But the time comes and I bike down there, and as I'm coming down the street, I see a guy standing outside. As I'm biking by, we make eye contact, and then as I turn across the street to go park my bike, I look up at him and he's looking at me, and we're very obviously both being like, is this the guy I'm supposed to be meeting? We were so unsure because even the photo of him with the magazine, I only saw the top half of his face, like his eyes upwards, and I'm pretty sure same for him, like he had only seen the top of my head before. We didn't really know what each other looked like, and at this point I still didn't know his real name, and so, you know, I kind of like awkwardly approach him from a distance so that it's kind of like ambiguous whether I'm going to talk to him specifically or not, just in case it's the wrong person. And he turns and he looks at me and he smiles and he says, are you Rackals? And I'm like, yes I am. Are you Paperclip 4? And he goes, yes I am. And we dap each other up and immediately start passionately kissing each other. No, I'm just kidding, obviously, but we introduce ourselves like, hey, my name's Quinn or Rackals, and I learned his name finally. And we go inside the bar, take a seat, order some drinks and stuff, and we just start talking. I was kind of nervous at first because, like I said, even after playing Minecraft for over 10 years, this was the first time I had ever met up with anybody. I had had some plans in previous years, but nothing really panned out. And now for the first time, here I was. The first person I'm ever going to meet up with was somebody named Paperclip 4, who at this point, basically my main impression of him was that he was someone who potentially was doxing people. And so I was kind of worried, you know, not that I felt like I was unsafe or anything, just that it was going to end up being super awkward. But my worries ended up being unfounded. We ended up getting along really well, just talking about all sorts of stuff, life and sports and school and the places we traveled. But of course, a lot of our conversation revolved around gaming, Minecraft, and Quakecraft. And to me, that was absolutely the funniest part, because every time we started touching on those kind of subjects, we'd like do a little nervous look around just to make sure nobody's listening to us. Because, you know, the last thing you really want to get caught doing at the bar is talking with another guy about Hypixel Quakecraft. It's a little bit embarrassing, I'll admit it. And we've joked about it a few times. Like, I cannot believe we're here right now talking about this. Like, this meetup is absolutely gonna break the internet when people find out that the Rackals X Paperclip 4 collab finally happened. And so we have a drink or two at this bar, but we end up deciding to switch locations to move to somewhere with a little bit more activity. We end up deciding that we'll walk downtown and try a different bar. And so we get to the bar that I personally recommended, and it ended up being pretty much equally as dead in that location too, which kind of sucked. But to be fair, it was a Tuesday night, and my city actually isn't super massive either, so it was not exactly a raving party scene that night. Not only that, but this new bar that we went to ended up giving us like the worst customer service of all time. They just wouldn't seat us, and then we finally got seated and then they wouldn't serve us. It was ridiculous. But thankfully, eventually a different server came out and was way more proactive. And so pretty much the night continued on. We just had more drinks, continued to talk the talk. And while we'd been drinking, we basically also agreed that after we were done, we were going to go hit up a dispensary and get high together. But we ended up going pretty late into the night, to the point where the closest dispensaries to us had all been closed, which was a little disappointing. But then he's like, oh, hold on, wait a second. And he grabs his coat off the chair and reaches into his pocket. And he's like, oh, perfect. I completely forgot I had these, but I brought edibles. And I'm like, what? And he whips out these little gummies, and I'm like, no way. And he's like, do you want some? And I think about it for a second, and I think very obviously the smart answer here would be to say no. And so for anyone watching this at home, if you're ever meeting up with anyone you meet online, say no if they offer you something questionable out of their pocket. That being said, Paperclip 4 and I, we are homies at this point. So I'm like, yeah, load me up. And so lo and behold, we each have an edible and keep hanging out for a while. Eventually we leave the bar, just start walking around downtown and talking about how unbelievable the night was, because never in a million years would I have expected the first online friend that I ever meet in real life to be Paperclip 4, and we end up going to 2 different bars and then taking edibles together. Like legitimately 2 days earlier, if you told me this was going to happen, I would not have believed you in a million years. It was so unbelievably surreal, and it was so much fun. I mean, after walking downtown for a while, we obviously split ways. He went back to his hotel, I biked home, and I get home and I message him like, hey man, got home safely. I sent him the pictures that I took through the night, which looking back on were so funny, because I guess I just didn't want to be that person who like had their arm way up in the air to take the really obvious selfie. So I tried to take these like low-key ones with my phone all the way down on the table, and it was just not a good angle for us, I don't think. So I ended up with no good photos from the night. And I'll put one of them up on screen now, except I'm gonna cover it completely in black. So you're gonna have to trust me that it's there underneath that black square. But I haven't done a face reveal as Rackals yet, and as far as I know, I'm the only person from the Quake community who knows what he looks like. And to top it all off, I really don't need the GeoGuessr gurus to suddenly pinpoint my exact coordinates based on the background details in some photo I post online. But you can use your imagination, okay? But yeah, all in all, I really did have a blast that night, and I absolutely hope that I have the chance to meet up with him or really any online friend sometime again in the future. Big shoutouts to Paperclip for being an absolute lad, and even bigger shoutouts to you for watching this video all the way to the end. If you guys want to hear any more stories like this or just want to watch more Quakecraft content in general, a like and a sub would be greatly appreciated. And let me know if you guys have ever had the opportunity to meet up with people you know through online, and whether or not you then proceeded to accept suspicious edibles in a Ziploc bag from them or not. I have a feeling I might be one of the few people to do that. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I've been Rackals, and peace.